Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. I really miss you. Our classroom is super empty and it's really depressing in here without you. But here we are doing some e-learning, or going to try to anyways. This is just kind of an introduction to my channel for the time being. Basically what's going to happen is I'm going to post videos for each of the math lessons that we'll be having for this week that we're out. I will give you guys some time to think and stuff while you're in there, but feel free to pause any video anytime you need more time to think, because I'm just going to kind of move through stuff, and then if you need longer to think about something or to write something down, definitely pause the video before you continue. So this is the first lesson of our math that we're missing while we're out, and it's just the show what you know, so it's kind of some review stuff that you've seen before, but here's what it looks like. Mine looks a little different than yours, doesn't have color, it's kind of boring. But in chapter 8, we're starting with dividing fractions. We know how to multiply them. We did that all in chapter 7. So this is moving on from that now, going to division. We've seen kind of some of this stuff before earlier in the year. So let's just jump in. I'll do a couple examples of each type of problem with you, and then you can do the rest of them on your own. So I'll do number 1 with you. The directions say, write a fraction that names the shaded part. And here's what your little shaded part looks like. So total counters would be what? Just go ahead and count up your counters. 2, 4, 6, 7. And the shaded counters are 3. And then what fraction would that be from what you can see? Put my fraction bar there. Go ahead and fill in your fraction. What would that fraction be? If you put 3/7, you are correct. Woohoo! You can go ahead and do number 2 on your own after the video is over, but it's the same idea. Careful about the language here. Looking at groups, not individual counters. Okay, moving on to the next section. The directions say, use inverse operations and fact families to solve. Now, we've heard those words inverse operations before. If you don't remember what they mean, maybe you can remember based on what we're seeing here, or you can always go back into your math notebook. We do have it written in there a couple different times. And then fact families, that's kind of a new thing for us. So just think in your mind what that could possibly mean. I'll give you a second to think about that. Fact families, and looking at what they have written there, you can probably figure out what a fact family is. So fact families are basically just using the same numbers but with different operations and in a different order. And remember, inverse operations undo each other. They're opposite operations that undo each other. And so here they say, since 6 times 4 is 24, then something divided by 4 is 6. So what would go in that blank there using these other numbers? If you said 24, you are correct. So fact family just uses the same numbers, different operations, and then of course the orders are different because you can't have the same order to make them true. Now if we look at these, and we'll be seeing these later in lesson 8.1, so we will see these again, but if we look at these, kind of try and find a pattern here. 6 times 4 equals 24. Notice where our numbers go. 24 divided by 4 equals 6. What do you notice about how the numbers moved between those fact families? I see this. So our answer for the multiplication became the leader, and the leader for our multiplication became the answer. So just kind of keep that in mind, especially as we move into 8.1 in the next video. We will be seeing some more of that as well. Okay, 5 through 6, or 4, 5, and 6 are all of the same thing that we just did. So let's move on to the next one. You can come back and do those other ones later. For 7 through 10, the directions say write an equivalent fraction. What does this word mean again? Equivalent. Has some familiar sound in it. Equa. So equivalent fractions, if we need a little review, equivalent fractions mean equal fractions. So our first one here, 16/20. Excuse me, we want to write an equal fraction for 16/20. We can either simplify or we can get bigger. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to simplify. I think that's a little easier and we know how to do that. So what number goes into 16 and 20? I know they're both even, so there's a number that automatically goes into all even numbers. You could use that one if you like, or you can try and find a different one that goes in. Just looking at those numbers, I'm going to use 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So this would be an equivalent fraction. It shows the same amount. If I were to draw 2 circles here and cut one into 20 parts and one into 5 parts, shaded 16 of the first one and 4 of the second one, they would look the same. They would be the same shape. That's what equivalent fractions are about. Okay, you can come back and do 8, 9, 10 on your own in just a minute. We're going to go on to the next page here. This one's using some vocabulary that we haven't seen in a while because we've been focusing on multiplication for quite a bit. So we know these words up here. We know a factor times a factor equals a product. If you look at these words up at the top, factor times factor equals product. With division, though, we use different language. We use different words. They have different names. And you can kind of think of it this way. I know Mrs. Larson had a poster of this last year. What words would fill in these blanks? That's kind of what we're doing here. Okay, so someone divided by someone else equals something. Here's your review words. And don't forget to use that green page that has all of these words on there. That should help you greatly in figuring out these blanks and then these blanks down here as well. Keep this language in mind as we continue on through the chapter because we're going to be using them quite a bit. So that's it for the first video. Good luck on your Show What You Know. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Don't forget name, number, date. See you guys later.